G'day, hi, and welcome. Check out what I got. The world's great rifles. World's great rifles. Should be greatest rifles, but great rifles. Old guy Vincent just came by and, hey, don't steal Dad's slipper, dog. Came by and just basically gave that to me. Neat old guy. I swear to God, this guy's owned like over at least 1,000 firearms in his lifetime. Interesting old guy. He's 81 years old. He comes up to shoot the shit with you. You're going to lose an hour of your life talking to him, but he's always interesting. Always got good stories. So I've been out on the bike today, ride number 5. Woohoo! Just going to do some maintenance stuff. The yard's still pretty mucky, but I got to get ready for doing the oil change in the next couple of days. It might rain the next 2 or 3 days. I don't know. But what I got going on here is here's my Triumph Bible. Got some greasy fingerprints on it. No shop service manual is complete without it. And what I'm going over is basically the maintenance intervals. Now, I don't have an actual shop manual, which I'm going to be getting, but I just want to show you guys something. You should, just so you know what you maintain. Like, there's the obvious stuff is always easy to figure out what's what, and I just want to get to the beginning of this. Here we go. So here's, when you think about stuff that you're going to maintain on your motorcycle, are you thinking in terms of that? Like, you've got everything in there, every little thing in there, and how many intervals, and when you think of the usual things like spark plugs, oil filter, chain, if you have a chain, or shaft drive or belts or whatever you might have on the back of your bike. But the point is that there's things to check and things you might not think of, like little hoses and stuff like that. And something I got a funky idle thing happening right now where the idle's smooth, but it's just, well, it's not super smooth, but it's getting too low. And I'm trying to figure out what it is. Now, I'm going to try spark plugs, but before I do that, something I didn't think of, and this makes complete sense. You guys probably, it's something, because it's, mechanical problems, usually you could break wire problems into two things: mechanical problems or wiring problems, right? Electrical. Usually that's your two choices. But when you're on your bike and you go like this, okay, and you've done that a few times, something you might not, that might lead to a low idle. Like, it's like my bike, it's when I start it up, it goes up like it's supposed to, and then the idle goes right down, and you have to hold the throttle till it warms up. Then once the warms up to operational temperature, and it takes about 2 minutes or so, it'll idle fine where it's supposed to idle, but then once the bike gets really hot, the idle drops again from 2,000 down to about 1,500 RPMs, and then at 1,500 RPMs it starts to run rough, and at about 1,200 the bike will just basically stall. So basically 1,800 to, I need my idle set between 1,800 and 2,000 for the bike to find its stroke and run smooth. What I'm thinking has happened. Now, I haven't changed. One of the things I'm doing is I'm going to, obviously, as soon as this tank of fuel is down low enough, I'm going to pull the tank, pull out the air cleaner, give it a look at, see how dirty it is, clean that. I'm going to check my spark plugs, check the gap on them, and do that, and obviously that type of thing. The next thing that I'm going to probably do, and this is something that you're probably not going to think of, and try it first before you even worry about changing plugs and stuff like that, because it might be a spark plug problem, it might not. Now, according to the intervals on my bike, for my bike, the spark plug is not, you change them about every 2 to 4 years is what they're recommending. Now, those could be the original Triumph spark plugs in there. I have no idea how old these spark plugs are. I'm assuming they're newer. But maybe they're not. But one thing that you might not consider is that if you have a low idle, you might not be considering from doing this, okay, maybe your throttle cable is stretched a bit. Think about that. So throttle cables can stretch over time. I'm not really hard on this bike, but over a season maybe could explain, reset the throttle cable, and that might take up my idling problem, on cold startup. So what I'm going to do is run the bike, get it nice and warm, and then what I'm going to do from there is just, take off what I need to take off, adjust the throttle arm, run the bike and adjust the throttle arm so that it idles, at operational temperature where it needs to idle. It seems like it's not once it hits operational temperature, but once you've ridden it for an hour, then when you let off on even not quite an hour, it seems like it just goes down to 1500 RPM, which is running smooth, but it seems like it's about to stall, right? So I want to bring the idle up a bit, and that throttle adjustment is probably what I need. Probably don't need new plugs. I probably need a throttle adjustment, because otherwise the bike runs fine. It just doesn't want to. It seems like it's going to stall, and it hasn't stalled. I think it's only stalled on me once, but it feels like if I were to leave it, it would just, after a minute or two, it would probably just stop running. The idle be too low. So just a little tip on there, maintenance tip. I'll leave it short and at that. But yeah, so today is basically to start taking inventory of some of the stuff on the bike that might be up for service, just to see where it is, and then I would like to kind of like zero time the bike. This isn't a brand new bike, so like anything, things do wear out. But I'm going to have to basically pull the fairings off. That's the only thing I don't like about my bike, is that when I want to work on it, it's like I got to plan the day to do it, because it takes an hour just to pull the fairing off. And if I'm going to pull the fairing off, well, I might as well, while I'm in there, might as well do this, that, and the other thing. So I kind of plan it out so that I'm not neglecting things, just to see if there's any leaking hoses, that kind of stuff. Maintain fuel filters, all that stuff. I'd like to zero time all that stuff, hopefully by the end of the year, have it all done. But before I even do anything, before I buy a single thing for the bike, I just want to inventory what I got, how it's working, and I want to see what the maintenance intervals are, what needs to be adjusted. For example, I think I do need a new chain adjust. The suspension, I think, is fine, but yeah, it's good to adjust those things. Eventually, I'd like to replace all like the fuel filters, the obviously when I do my oil change, I'm going to do the oil filter. But according to my service manual, like, this bike doesn't need oil changed very often in it after you get over a certain 1,000 miles. Like it's like basically 16,000 miles or 24,000 kilometers in the 4th year, and then the first year it's like the first month it's like 500 miles or 800 kilometers, you change the oil. Then the first year it's like every 6,000 kilometers or something like that, or 4,000 miles. And then in the 3rd year it's a little more. And then by the time you get to the 4th year, it's like, I guess at that point they want you to buy a new bike, and they're saying, okay, well, whatever. So I would say at least change it once a season, depending on your mileage. But if we're talking tour bikes and stuff like that, maybe once a month might be better for you, or whatever mileage comes up first, right? So, I mean, I'm already in 5 rides, I'm almost 400 kilometers on the bike just this season alone. So the good news on that is I'm going to have, lots of, it's still April. As you can see, there's still like a whole bunch of snow on the ground. This might look strange for some people, that like it's actually just, it's a really late spring, and or a really long winter, however you want to look at it. But like right now, I'm in, just in my t-shirt. It's nice and warm. You can wear shorts today. It's a little bit cool for shorts, but not too bad. But a beautiful day for riding. But yeah, so early spring, I just want to do, before I start really getting into my riding season, I definitely want to get as much inventory done as possible. So I'm going to leave it at that. So go through your manual and see what a full maintenance schedule looks like for your bike. That way, some things might stand out to you that you haven't thought of, such as, like, again, adjusting the throttle body, or the idle by the throttle cable stretching, because that is if you ride enough, yeah, that will happen. So I plan on having like just the wrenching tune-up done, hopefully by the end of the month, to have everything I need. But I'm going to do an inventory, see what I need first. So I'm going to see if I can correct my idle problem with that first. If that doesn't work, then the next thing is test the plugs, or have, just replace the plugs. And then after that, it's probably fuel mapping. So that's kind of how the process of elimination is going to do. But before I throw down $40 for plugs that I might not need, try the throttle body first. So hopefully that'll fix up my idling problem. It's just a low idle problem. It's not a mind you, these bikes, if idle's too low on them, they kind of get sporadic, and then it runs rough if it's too low. But at 1500, it still runs smooth, but it feels like it's starting to get to the point where it's going to stall. And at 1200, it'll probably just stall. So 1800, it runs smooth. 2000, it runs smooth. So maybe it's just maybe that's what I got to do, is because I have done that a bit. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. There you go, just a little tip for you.